Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jay and we're doing some really fun stuff today. Today is an apple themed video. I'm going apple picking this morning and we've got some apple recipes, preservation recipes that we're going to do today. But I'm out running a few errands first. I had to go to the bank, I had to go to the dollar store. I had to get gas, that kind of stuff. I have to pick up a prescription. So I'm out doing those. Luckily, I love the area that we live and it has all of that stuff basically on the same street. So boom, 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 getting knocked out. But while I was over at the Dollar Tree, right next to that place, there is an adorable little local coffee place. I got the Apple Crisp Macchiato from Starbucks in, what did I do that? What was that video? Oh, that was the Do What Brings Me Joy video. And that's fine. The occasional treat is fine. But of course, Starbucks is a chain and their products are full of lots of yucky stuff. So this time for my treat, I wanted to go somewhere local, a locally owned, family operated place. And so this little coffee spot is really popular in my neighborhood, my area. And so what I ended up getting was a pumpkin spice chai warm. And so we're going to try that together. I'm probably going to burn my mouth off because I'm impatient. And then I also got, they have such delicious baked goods at this place. And I also got a maple pecan macaroon. Oh, oh, that's so good. It's not too hot. Oops. That is amazing. Look at how cute this little baby is. That's adorable. Oh, and it's hefty too. Let's try this. Oh, stop it. I love macaroons. That is delicious. What a treat. All right, you guys. Next time I see you, we'll be at the place where we're picking the apples. Okay, so she told me there was a little cart that could take me, but because a lot of people don't like to cross the street, but I didn't mind. So I'm just walking over to the apple. She said to the right of the white barn is where I'd find the variety that I'm purchasing. For one peck for the Honeycrisp, which is what I wanted, they're $20 a peck. That was a little pricey. So I'm going with Gala. They're $12 a peck. And look at how pretty. Look at all these. She said they're marked with signs. So I'm just gonna look for the Galas. I bought, you had to pay ahead of time and then they give you the bags and you have to use their bags. And I bought four packs. It was absolute madness in the store. I'm talking like the grocery store on a Sunday madness. But now that I'm out here in the apple orchard, it's so quiet except for the traffic noise. But I don't see a single person, not yet anyway. And there was a guy in there. Oh, I see the signs now. There are the signs. So I'll just keep walking until I find Gala. But no, there was a guy in there in the store and he was walking around with his camera and he wasn't filming, he was just taking photos. But it was a nice camera, and I walked up to him and I was like, I'm so happy to see another person here with a camera because I was feeling so embarrassed. And he looks at me and he goes, never feel embarrassed. And I was like, thank you, sir. So it was really nice. But anyway, all right, let's see if we can find these Galas. We found what we were looking for. Let's do some picking. I started walking with those apples, and the guy that was running the little wagon that was pulling people around saw me and had mercy on me and picked me up. And I am sweating, but I can't take my little vest off because the pockets have all my stuff in it. But I've got my apples loaded up in the car, and now we're gonna go back inside the store, and I'm gonna kind of show you around because it's so cute. Such a cute little like farm country store, lots of good stuff, and they've got donuts, and I'm definitely buying some donuts. So let's go look around. This is easily my favorite part of this store. They have all these different seasonings and spices in these little bags. And I get so many of my various spices and herbs here. I just want to show you really quickly what I got in there. First of all, they sell fry cakes, which are similar to donuts but a different texture if you've never had a fry cake. Look at the scrumptiousness that is these fry cakes. Ugh, can't wait. I went ahead and got a dozen so that Tom can have some too, and we're also hanging out with some of our friends tomorrow, so I figure we'll just bring the rest with us for that. And then I showed you guys the place where they had like the different spices and herbs and stuff. I just wanted to show you what I got because I always stock up on stuff. I've been really wanting to get some bay leaves because a lot of the recipes that I cook with call for them, but I don't have any. I've got some cream of tartar. I always get mine here because it's such a good deal. I got some red pepper flakes, some, oh, I'm really excited. This is the most exciting thing. I got whole hibiscus flowers dried for my tea because I drink a lot of tea. And finally, I got some whole brown mustard seed. All right. So that's what we did, and then obviously 4 packs of apples. And we're gonna go home and get started on those projects. All right, well, it's actually the next day. While I was driving home, I started to get, I kind of wasn't feeling very well, and that's kind of just been the reality of me trying to learn how to deal with this anxiety. And you know what, that's okay. I came home, I relaxed, I took a little bit of a nap. It's the next morning and we're just gonna continue on. The good thing about apples is that honestly, we could have done this next week and it still would have been fine. So I'm giving myself a little bit of grace, but we are gonna go on and deal with these apples, and I've got 3 recipes for that. So in my sink here, I have 55 apples. I did go ahead and give them a rinse because the guy that I was talking with out in the orchard said that they do spray these. He said it's been about a month since they did any spraying, and it did rain several times, but just to be safe, I gave them a wash with some soapy water, and now I've got them in my sink. I'm going to use 36 of these apples to can apple juice, and I am going to be using the recipe out of the Ball Blue Book of Preserving. It's on page 28. It's just the recipe for apple juice, and the only things that we need, our only ingredients are about 36 medium apples and 1 quart of water. That's it. There's no lemon juice, no citric acid, nothing like that, and so we're going to do that. And then we're going to use because the way that you make apple juice, we're gonna peel the apples and we're gonna coarsely chop them. We're gonna put them in my big pot, that red one that you've seen me use, and we're going to boil them down to get all the juices. We're going to strain them through cheesecloth, and then the juice that you get out of that is what you can. But I want to use the flesh that's going to be in the cheesecloth to make fruit leather. I don't want to waste that. It seems to me like it would be perfectly good apple. I've never done this before. I'm just trying to think of ways to use everything. So we are going to make fruit leather out of that. And then the peels that we get from peeling the apples, we're going to toss in cinnamon sugar. We're going to bake them in the oven, and we're going to have like cinnamon sugar apple peels. That'll be a way to use up the peels. And then we have 55 apples in the sink. 36 of them are for the apple juice. The other ones we are going to use to make dehydrated cinnamon apple chips that I'll use my Excalibur dehydrator for. The only parts of the apple that we're not using are the core and the seeds. I was thinking about giving them to the chickens, but I Googled it, and you're not supposed to give chickens apple seeds because they're high in cyanide and you can poison your chickens. So I'm going to bury them at the bottom of my compost pile, the cores and the seeds. You might be thinking, well, just remove the seeds and give them the cores. I was reading about it and they were like, yeah, you could do that, but the cores are difficult for them to eat and you'd have to make sure you get all the seeds out. I'm just not gonna fool with it. We're gonna compost them, but we are using the juice, the flesh, and the peels from the apples. So if you ask me, we're getting 4 products out of this. I think we're gonna do really well using the apples. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, one more thing. If you decide to make apple juice, you don't have to peel the apples. I'm only choosing to peel them because I want to use the flesh of the apples to make the fruit leather, and I don't want to have to worry about trying to get the peels out of there. So I'm just going to peel them, use the peels for something else, and that way the flesh will be really easy for me to convert into fruit leather. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. I'm going to peel 36 of these. I've got a bowl for when I dispose of the cores. I've got a bowl here for the peels, and I guess as I peel them and my cutting board fills up, I'll also chop them and just get them thrown into the pan. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that. I just wanna show you guys really quickly how I plan on chopping these because I have, where is it? I've got this guy. But I use this all the time and it's getting kind of dull. I'm gonna have to buy a new one. I don't think I'm gonna be able to effectively chop 36 apples with this thing. So what I plan on doing, since we're not keeping any of the core, I'll show you. I think what I'm gonna do is just kind of go around the apple and chop it like this. Try to stay away from the core. And I am going to get a little bit of peel in there, and that's okay. I'm okay with the fruit leather having a little bit. I just didn't want it to be, you know, a ton. And so we've got the core here. There's a little bit of flesh that I'm wasting for sure, but for the most part, I've got it. And we're just going to throw it into the pot, and that's how I'm going to do these apples. I just wanted to show you how I was planning on chopping them. Okay, so peeling the apples for the apple juice was a ginormous pain in my butt. This took me, I've been working on this, peeling them and chopping them for like an hour, and the recipe in the ball book does not tell you to peel them. It just says chop them, which makes sense because you're straining the apples through cheesecloth to get the juice. It's not necessary. I'm doing it because I want to use the apples for fruit leather. And we're going to have to see at the end of this video if I like the fruit leather enough to justify doing this again in the future, because that was a lot of work and a lot of my time this morning. So if I really love the fruit leather and it makes a really great healthy homemade snack, then cool, I'll put in the extra effort for something I really enjoy. But if I'm just meh on it, then I'll let you know and I won't do it again because that was a lot of extra work. However, I have a big, beautiful pot of chopped apples. Look at this. I'm really actually super proud of this. And all we're adding to this is a quart of water. And then we're going to get this on the stove and we're just going to cook these until they're tender. And then we can start the process of straining out the juice. So I'm going to get this over here. Here are all of my cores. I think I did a pretty good job getting all the flesh off. I was really trying to waste as little as possible. So I'll take that out to the compost. Look at this big, beautiful bowl of peels. I am so happy with this. And my apple peeler is old. It's used. I got it from a flea market, I think, or a co-op or something. And it was already used. The thing is the little piece that peels that it like, the little blade or whatever is super dull on it. I need to see if I can find a replacement. So the exciting thing is, let me see if I can show you. These peels have a lot of flesh on them. Let's see. I don't know if you can see that. And so I think, like, this is really hearty. This is really thick. I think that this is going to be delicious. And it's really cool because I've got so much of it. This will make a really delicious cinnamon apple snack. Really exciting. So I'm going to get a big glass bowl to put these in because I can't do what we need to do with this. So I'll be right back. I've got the oven preheating to 250 degrees. I've got 2 baking sheets lined with parchment paper over here. We're just gonna throw some of these in here. Probably gonna have to do it in batches, which is fine. I did look around the internet at a few different ways to do this and saw a couple recipes, and that's fine, but I'm kind of winging it and coming up with my own creation here. I mean, it's easy. We're just putting them in the oven, so it really doesn't matter that much. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add just some regular plain white sugar in here. And I'm not measuring anything. I'm measuring it with my heart. I'm going to add some light brown sugar as well. I'm going to, of course, put in a generous amount of cinnamon. I think I'm also going to add in some pumpkin pie spice. And I think I'm going to put in a little bit of vanilla. Although I don't know if there's a good reason to, but I'm going to. Just kind of try to get it all over. One recipe I saw said drizzle in a little bit of water so that your dry ingredients stick to the apples, and my immediate thought was, why use water when you can use vanilla? And then I'm just going to use my hands to kind of get all of these nice and coated in all that yumminess that we just added in here. I think these are pretty good and coated, so I'm going to throw this on one of the baking sheets that I have over here. So we ended up with 3 trays of these cinnamon sugar apple peels. My oven's preheated to 250. I'm going to go ahead and throw these in, and then we're going to get started on the apple chips. So those cinnamon apple peels are going to be in the oven for, one recipe I saw said 2.5 hours. So what I'm going to do is I set the timer for an hour and a half. At an hour and a half, I'm going to check them, take my tongs and kind of like flip them and move them around so that because I had them really loaded, that way everything gets nice and crispy. I'm going to put them back in. Based on what they look like at an hour and a half, I'll gauge then how much longer I want them to be in there. If it's going to be less or maybe even more considering how full those are. So we'll check those. My apples are doing great. They've already reduced down to almost half. You saw how full that was. The pot's down to like half. And the liquid's coming out of there really nice. I can hear it. I've got it turned to medium heat. And still yet it's kind of boiling. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit actually because we don't really want to boil that. We just want to extract the juice out of the apples. So we're going to move on to the apple slices. Every time I've made dehydrated cinnamon apple chips in the past, I've always peeled the apples. I'm not doing that this time because, to be honest with you, I don't want to peel any more apples. I've peeled 36 apples today. I've got 19 apples here that we're going to use for the chips. I'm just going to leave the peel. It's just a preference. I don't care. I'm fine with it being there. All I'm going to do is cut the ends off. And I've got a bowl in the sink here. These I'll probably give this to the chickens actually. There's no reason why they can't have these end pieces, just not the seeds. So I'll put those in a bowl. And then I've got my mandolin slicer here. And you can set the thickness. We'll start with that and see what that looks like. And then I've got this little gadget here. So you just take the apple and you stab it onto these pokey things. You like my terminology there? And then, I can never remember which way, this way. What do those look like? Those are pretty thick pieces, so let me turn this up a little bit. see what those look like. Those are better. These are freaking huge. It's probably going to take 2 dehydrator loads for me to fit all of these, but that's no problem. And so I'm just going to go through and slice all of these. I've got 19 of them, and I'm just going to throw them in this bowl that I've got over here. And then after I have all these sliced up, I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, here's where this process becomes a pain in the butt for me. So let's see. Here's an apple slice. Do you see this like star pattern in the middle? This is really hard. This is not soft, pretty apple flesh. This is where the seeds are in the core. I did not take out the core, I just sliced these with my mandolin slicer. And so you've got the full apple slice, including the middle part. Now, I've seen these before and they're very pretty, like it's very pretty, but this is not desirable to eat, in my opinion. And so every time I make these, I remove this middle part. And every time I do it, it's a giant pain in my butt. I try it a different way every time I do it. I've tried using a shot glass, I've tried using a bottle cap. I cannot find a nice, easy, streamlined way to get this middle part out. Right now, I'm using a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon to try and pop it out, and that's not efficient either, and it gives me not clean edges. It takes a long time. Obviously I would be doing this on a hard surface. I'm just holding it up to show you. So yeah, like it works, but it's not convenient, and it's going to take me a lot of time to go through this entire bowl and do that. If you have any suggestions, let me know, because this is my 3rd attempt at this and this doesn't really work either. So let me know what you do. But I'm going to go through and get all of these apple slices set out on the paper towels that I have here. And I'm going to pat them dry, make sure they're nice and dry. And I'm going to take out the centers of all of them and make sure that there are no seeds or stem or anything in them. So I'll do that and then I'll be back. Between the apples on the stove and the peels in the oven, our house smells so good right now. And that's really fun. So I have my first layer here on the counter, and I got really frustrated using that little measuring spoon, so I ended up actually just using my thumbnail to just punch them out, and that took less time than using that little measuring spoon. So really need to figure out a more efficient way to do that. But anyway, I'm just going to go through with a dry paper towel and just pat these dry, and then after that I'm going to sprinkle them with cinnamon sugar, or you could just do cinnamon, you could do pumpkin pie spice, you could do nutmeg, you could sprinkle these with anything you want. I've always done a cinnamon sugar mixture. Maybe this time I'll include a little bit of brown sugar in there too, and it's so scrumptious. Of course, it's a treat. You're not supposed to sit down and eat the entire thing, although it's really hard not to. So I don't mind having a little bit of sugar in there. It's not an overwhelming amount, and it's really, really tasty. You could also just dehydrate these plain. You don't have to put anything on them, and I've done that before, and they're really tasty. So actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna store these in the same container that I store the peels in, since these will be dehydrated and those will be dried in the oven. I think I'm going to store them together, and those are sprinkled with sugar and cinnamon and pumpkin pie spice and vanilla. So I think I'm actually gonna leave these plain because they'll be in there with those. There's already sugar in those. I don't really see a point in adding sugar in these too if they're gonna be stored together. So I actually think I'm just gonna dehydrate these plain, I think. Plus these are gala apples, they're very sweet, and I've been munching on them as I've been working today on all of these projects, so, and they're delicious. So no, I'm making the executive decision. I'm not gonna put anything on these. I'm gonna dehydrate them plain. All right, moving on. I am reserving 3, I have 9 trays in my Excalibur dehydrator. I'm reserving 3 of them for the fruit leather that we're gonna make today. So I have 6 trays that I can use today for these. So I only sliced up 5 apples, I think, because these are huge. These apple slices are giant, like they're as big as the palm of my hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and load these up. I've got just a few more left in my bowl, and if I have room for a couple more apples, then I'll slice those up too. But right now I'm just filling 6 trays. Okay, so we have handled the apple chips. They are in the dehydrator. I sliced up 2 more apples and it was perfect. Down to the slice, I filled those 6 trays. Perfect. So those are in the dehydrator. I've got my water bath canner filled with water and it's heating up because you guys know it takes forever to heat up a water bath canner. So we've got that going. Our apples have been simmering along for a long time because it took me forever to get through the both the peels and then also the apple slices, which is fine, no big deal. I just had it on low, it was simmering along. So how I plan on doing this, I have this really neat pot that my aunt and uncle-in-law gave Tom and I for a wedding gift. I'll show you. I've got my cheesecloth here, and this pan's really cool. It's got a steam basket, and then it's got this basket, which is like basically a colander. Like if you were boiling pasta, you can just lift this out and there your pasta's drained. And then it's got the pot down in there. And so my thought was the easiest way to do this would be to take my cheesecloth, put it down in this top steam bucket, and then I can lift this up and kind of tuck in the sides of the cheesecloth like this so that it would stay in place once it starts to get filled with the heavy apple flesh, you know, something like that. And then I'll just be able to pour my apples into the cheesecloth and the juice can fall down to the bottom of the pot. I think this is gonna be a good system, but I've never done it this way, so we'll see how it goes. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of start that process and we'll see how much juice we have and we'll see if this is efficient and works well for us. Tom had a friend over, so I continued to record but didn't do any more talking. They were being rambunctious and playing video games, so it was pretty loud. But guys, I cannot even begin to tell you how difficult this process was. I am never canning apple juice again unless somebody can give me a solution to this. I tried the way that I originally showed you with the pot. Absolutely nothing was happening. No juice was straining out of there whatsoever. And it was very hot, so I had to wait a while for this to cool down so that it was temperate enough for me to handle it. And I have the system that you see now. I ended up using the strainer that you see here, my fine mesh strainer, to try and catch some of the stuff that comes through the cheesecloth. I needed like 4 more layers of cheesecloth than what I had on hand to catch all of it. And I just 1 to 2 scoops at a time, hand squeezed all of that dang juice out and poured it into the container that you see in the back there. It took me hours, like I'm not exaggerating, like 2 hours to strain out all of that juice. I was getting so frustrated. I was like, there's got to be an easier way to do this. I watched other people's YouTube videos and nope, they were all doing the same thing. The only thing that I was seeing that was different is that when they would scoop their cooked apples into the cheesecloth, it was draining, like juice was coming out of the cheesecloth into the bottom of their whatever container they were using. I don't know why mine didn't want to do that. I tried pushing it around with the spoon. I tried putting the blue bowl that you see in the back there and kind of smushing it down to see if anything would come out. Nothing, like it wasn't working. So I ended up having to squeeze. So this is truly hand squeezed apple juice, which is cool and it tastes really good. Me and Tom and our friend that was over all tried it. It's delicious, but it's not worth the amount of work that I had to put in. See how gunky that cheesecloth is? I had to rinse it in the sink with clean water in between each, little squeeze session that I had here. Each time I had to clean it. So the blue bowl is where I collected the scraps that came out of the cheesecloth. And then you can see my food processor in the corner there. I used that to kind of, further process those apples and get them ready for the fruit leather. So nothing exciting to see here, just hours and hours of labor for some apple juice. After I squeezed out all that apple juice, I had to pour it back into the pot that the apples originally cooked in. And you want to heat that up, but you don't want to boil it. You want to heat it up to 190 degrees. So that's what I'm doing here. Once we did that, it was ready to be put into the clean jars. You can see me funneling that in here. I ended up with 3 pints. This recipe was supposed to make 6, guys. I have 3 pints. I'm cleaning the lids off here, adding on the lids, screwing on the band to fingertip tight, getting those put into my boiling water bath canner, and in they go. I waited until it was a roaring boil and I processed these for 10 minutes. Okay, here is our apple flesh after it got put through the food processor. I'm gonna add some pumpkin pie spice and some cinnamon, mix that all together. Here I've got some parchment paper that I cut to fit, forgot to add some lemon juice. And then I just scoop that out onto the parchment paper and I use a spatula to spread that around to the desired thickness that I want. And I really try to get it spread out nicely because we're going to be cutting these into strips and you want it to be as even as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I really did try and make sure I had a consistent thickness throughout and that my edges were nice and that it looked nice. I ended up putting this into the dehydrator with the apple slices at 140 degrees. Okay, it is now the next day, but that's acceptable because we needed to let the dehydrator do its thing. The fruit leather was actually done before the apple chips, which surprised me. So I took the fruit leather out and put the apple chips in for a few more hours. I want to say the fruit leather was in for 10 hours, and I think the apple chips were in for like 14 hours, I think, at 140 degrees in my Excalibur dehydrator. So I've got my apple chips here. They are so dang pretty. I forgot that I didn't realize I'm out of wide mouth lids, so I'll have to stop and pick some up. But I've got this perfect jar for them. So gorgeous, and it may look like I have a lot. We're gonna fly through these. Apple chips don't last in this house. They're so yummy. And then I have my apple peels. I had originally planned on storing these two together. I don't know how I thought I was gonna pull that off because these are packed down in here. I mean, I was pushing them down. I have been snacking on them. They're delicious. I will say the next time I make these, because I will definitely do this again, it's a great way to use up the peel. I think I'm going to decrease the heat and let them go longer. I did 275 degrees for 2-ish hours, I think. And they are a little well done, in my opinion. Very crispy, they taste baked, and I wanted it to be more dried than baked. So I think next time I'll probably try to do like 200 degrees for 3 hours. I don't know, something like that. But they are tasty, and the cinnamon sugar and the vanilla, really, really good. That was a win. My apple juice, let's talk about apple juice for a second. That was awful. I'm gonna be dramatic for a second and say probably never making apple juice again. That was terrible. I told you guys that I was gonna try using my that fancy pot and use the cheesecloth on top, but I scooped the cooked apples into the cheesecloth and like waited to hear if I could hear it dripping down into the pot. Nothing. I moved it around with the spoon. Nothing. I lifted it up to see if there was any liquid in the bottom. Nothing. So then I had to pick up the cheesecloth and squeeze out all the liquid, but it was really, really hot. And so I had to literally just wait and move on and do like clean or something while I waited for it to cool down enough for me to squeeze. And I had to do that like 30 times because the cheesecloth that I had could only fit like 2 scoops of cooked apples, and I had to squeeze out all the juice, rinse out the cheesecloth in between each time because it was getting clogged up. And then it took me such a long time. There has got to be a better way. There's gotta be a better way. But I looked up some YouTube videos to see because I was starting to feel dumb. I was like, I'm missing something here. There's something that I'm missing. So I was looking at other people's YouTube videos and nope, they were doing the same thing. They were putting it in the cheesecloth. The only thing that I was seeing that was different was that other people would scoop it into their cheesecloth and it would drain. Like I could hear it in their videos. So I don't know if I didn't cook mine long enough or if I cooked them too long. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there, but it was awful. And because it was so terrible, I wasn't as thorough as I probably could have been squeezing out the juice because I was way, way over it. So I only got 3 pints when I should have gotten 6. So I don't know. If you know more about it than I do, let me know in the comments, or if you have any tips, or if there are any cool gadgets that could make that easier, because that was terrible. Anyway, I have 3. I tasted it, Tom tasted it, and our friend that was over tasted it, and it's really good. So we're just gonna savor these 3. It was a labor of love-hate, and I have them. Whatever, moving on. So here are the fruit strips. And I'm calling this because I put pumpkin pie spice, I put cinnamon. It's super tasty, so I'm calling them apple pie fruit leather, and they're super tasty. So I've already gotten some in here. I kept one of the 3 sheets so that I could show you what I did. So this is the fruit leather, and personally I think it's actually a little well done. I think next time I'll dehydrate it for a little less amount of time, but still really good. All I did was these are my kitchen scissors. They're clean. They don't leave the kitchen. And I was just cutting it because I tried using my pizza cutter and it wasn't working. So I just cut this into strips like this, and it comes off of the parchment really easily, but I'm gonna store it on the parchment, and I was just rolling them up like cute little homemade healthy fruit roll-ups. Come on, look at that. That is adorable. And then I have been storing them in this jar, and I've been kind of having to squeeze them in here like that. And it's been working out really well. So I'll finish up this one and get them all in there. But I'm really excited about this. Now you might be wondering, you know, the apple juice was such a pain in the butt. Why don't you just do applesauce? Why don't you just do apple pie filling? For 2 reasons. A, I don't like apple pie, and I don't think Tom does either. Cooked apples, like, not for me. I don't like it. So I'm not going to make apple pie filling. Applesauce, I will probably actually do a second round of apple picking and make some applesauce. We don't eat applesauce, but I do use it a lot in baking, so I wouldn't mind having some applesauce. But applesauce and apple pie filling, there's already plenty of content out there with those recipes and tips and tricks on how to do that. It's been done many times. So I was really trying to come up with different ideas to show you. I don't want to say unique because I didn't come up with any of this completely originally, but I was just trying to do something a little different, make it interesting. But overall, I'm really happy with this, except the apple juice. I'm gonna have to really think about that one. But the apple chips, I've been making those for years. They're delicious. I love them, and I will probably make more of them this year. Baking the peels, really good, super, super tasty snack. And then doing the fruit leather, I really like it. Tom hasn't tried it yet, I don't think, so I don't know what his opinion is on it, but I really like it, and I'll definitely eat it as a snack, take it to work with me, or, you know, if I'm home and I want to eat something but I don't want to eat chips, just grab a couple of those maybe. But overall, this was really fun. It was awesome to get in the kitchen and do something kind of fallish and get some more food put up, preserved. So anyway, if you have any other unique ways to preserve apples, sorry, Benny's drinking water. That's what you're hearing. If you have any other unique ways to preserve apples outside of applesauce and apple pie filling, cinnamon apple chips, let me know in the comments, how do you like to preserve it? Thank you so much for hanging out with me. This was a lot of fun. If you like preservation content like this, please consider subscribing. And if you try any of these recipes out, let me know. But guys, thank you so much, and I hope that you have an awesome day. Bye.